The Mediterranean Corridor is a high-speed railway axis that will run from Zahony, Hungary to Algeciras, Spain, following the coastlines of Spain and France and crossing the Alps towards the east through Italy, Slovenia and Croatia, and continuing through Hungary up to its eastern border with Ukraine. The Trans-European network that will be joined by the corridor will back Europe from north to south. It will be approximately 3,500 kilometers long and will concentrate 54% of the inhabitants and 66% of the gross domestic product of the European Union.
The Mediterranean corridor is intended for the transport of passengers and goods. Due to its length, it will be composed by different types of lines depending on its usage.
The background of the Mediterranean Corridor. In 1990, the Mediterranean Corridor is born as a concept. In 2004, formed a multisectoral business association is constituted with the aim of improving the connections of the ports and airports through a large rail freight axis that joins the south and the north of Europe. In 2010, the European Commission approves the network of 9 multimodal corridors, which includes the Mediterranean Corridor. A year after, the European Commission approves a new white paper on transport, where the political foundations of the European transport policy are laid. They promote, among other measures, a strong impulse to the rail transport of passengers and goods. In 2014, 300 projects are identified about the Mediterranean Corridor, which 44% of them are railway projects. A total implementation of the corridor is expected in 2030, where it's estimated that 40 million tons of goods could be transferred from road to rail. The Trans-European Transport Network Regulation defines its general objective as to strengthen the social, economic and territorial cohesion of the European Union and to contribute to the creation of a single European transport area. This is why the idea of the Mediterranean Corridor has arisen. It can reduce the times of transportation at a half between the Mediterranean littoral cities. It can increase the rail competitiveness and market share on the European transport market. It can also contribute to a more sustainable economic development through the reduction of the pollution and the greenhouse gases emissions, and it can also optimize the quality of the service and the capacity of the freight corridors.
Current situation, problems the Mediterranean corridor faces. As mentioned before, the Mediterranean corridor still faces some bottlenecks that don't allow it to work. It is believed that its total implementation will be possible in 2030. In order to fully develop the corridor, certain aspects need to be addressed for ensuring an efficient and sustainable use of the infrastructure capacity and for guaranteeing the corridor's full interoperability. Cross-border sections. The majority of problems the Mediterranean corridor has to face are located near the different borders that it crosses. The main ones are the following: the underutilization of the new high-speed line between Figueres and Perpignan, as well as the problems related to the difference between the Spanish railway gauge and the international railway gauge. In the border between France and Italy, the steep gradient of the existing railway line on the French side of the border requires double-push locomotives for regular-sized freight trains. Also, it needs to be created a 57-kilometer tunnel railway that links Lyon and Turin because it is the main missing link in the corridor which aims at connecting southwestern European countries with central and eastern European countries. There is also a need to upgrade the lines between Slovenia and Hungary, Slovenia and Croatia, and between Croatia and Hungary. Capacity issues. Currently, the large urban areas around the big cities that take part in the corridor are already on the edge of saturation. This saturation makes it difficult to use the existing lines to transport a bigger quantity of freight. Some examples of this saturation are Lyon, Turin, or Barcelona, because they are already important nodes in the international railway freight trade. To solve these capacity issues, there is a need to create new lines and increase the capacity of these nodes without negatively affecting the national trade. Interoperability and intermodality issues. The last-mile connections of main industrial sites, ports, and intermodal logistic terminals to the main transport network have to be guaranteed and need to be enhanced in order to assure that the development of the transport system has an impact on the socio-economic growth of regions. Therefore, the issue of linking the core network to the production, exchange, or consumption sites is among the first priorities to be addressed.
The Mediterranean corridor will run through 3 core, 2 semi-periphery, and a periphery country according to the country's classification of the wall system theory developed by Immanuel Wallerstein. The 3 core countries are Spain, France, and Italy, that are defined as wealthy industrialized countries. They control the global market while benefiting the most and have powerful alliances throughout the world, as well as strong state institutions. The 2 semi-periphery countries are Slovenia and Hungary, that are capitalist nations located between the core and periphery countries. They play a significant role when it comes to mediating the social, political, and economic activities linking periphery and core places. These countries provide diverse economic opportunities, but the gap between the poor and the rich is quite significant. They are still dependent and underdeveloped despite achieving significant industrialization levels. Croatia, the only periphery country, is less developed than the core and the semi-periphery countries. Periphery countries have just a small share of the world's wealth. These nations are not just dependent on other nations but are often exploited by the more developed countries. Some characteristics of periphery countries include unstable governments, poor education systems, and poor health systems. As we can see, the main objective pursued by the corridor is to be able to transport goods to different countries in Europe and thus improve their economy. According to Wallerstein's theory, we can conclude that the core countries will surely benefit the most from this process. Although this may happen, the corridor is a project that provides countries of the different categories to collaborate and be able to benefit from it regardless its given label. According to Firmed, rail transport will benefit the large industries and the business sector of the agri-food, automotive, chemical, metallurgical, ceramics, or raw material sectors, most of them located in periphery countries but controlled by the core countries. Furthermore, the Mediterranean corridor is also connected with other corridors that link different countries, among which we can also find core, periphery, and semi-periphery countries. For example, it is connected with the Atlantic corridor that goes through Portugal, Spain, France, and Denmark, 4 core countries. Another example would be the Orient-East Mediterranean corridor that connects 2 core countries, Germany and Austria, 2 semi-periphery countries, Hungary and Slovakia, and 5 periphery countries, the Czech Republic, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, and Cyprus.
Taylor theories. We can also analyze the Mediterranean corridor's impact on the world economy with Peter J. Taylor's theory. His theory differs from the Wallerstein theory in the way to divide the world system. Wallerstein divides it horizontally, and Taylor divides it in a vertical, 3-tier geographical structure pivoting about the nation-state. The first scale defined by Taylor is experience, and it's related to our daily lives, our home and work. The Mediterranean corridor would significantly affect the daily lives of the people around it. For example, with the Mediterranean corridor, the train journeys between cities will be faster and easier, so people will travel better and more often. Another example could be the jobs that the Mediterranean corridor will create, increasing the job offer in the region. The second scale defined by Taylor is the ideology, and it is related to the nation-state concept and to its capacity to make politics solve problems at a short term. The Mediterranean corridor affects this level because it is used by many politicians as a key to improve its state economy in a higher level than it would have been done without it. This may result in a short-term economy improvement without solving the main problems that the economy has. The third scale is the reality, and it affects the world market at a global scale. It is conceived as the whole reality, the accumulation of the other 2 scales. The Mediterranean corridor will affect the global scale in 2 different ways. First of all, it will increase the trade between different European countries, therefore increasing all the European market trade. Secondly, it will negatively affect other transport routes going through the third countries that will become obsolete due to the Mediterranean corridor hegemony.